this lesson, we're taking a look at the song Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. There are only 2 parts to this song. I've taught it to tons of beginners and it's a really good one to start mixing your lead and rhythm playing together. So we're going to go through all of those parts, and then if you stick around until the end of the video, I'm going to show you a couple of approaches to using a looper pedal for this song as well. This is the first full song lesson of Series 4 of my beginner guitar course, where we're trying to push beyond just playing the basic chords, so you can find more riffs and songs in the playlist in the description, and anything in this lesson that you're unsure about you can brush up on in the previous series of my course. We're going to start with the chords, then add the lead stuff on top, so let's dive in. So this tune uses the same chord progression for the whole song. There are only 3 different chords in it, so it's pretty basic really. The only tricky thing is the fact that the progression starts and ends with the same chord. So the 3 chords that we've got in the song are A, E and D, but you actually want to think of it as a 4 chord progression that goes A, E, D, A, E, D, A. It would be incorrect to think of it as A, E, D, A, E, D, because that would only feel like a 3 chord progression, but we want it to be 4 chords in the progression. It just so happens that the first and last chord are the same. So putting that into practical terms, we're going to have 2 bars on each chord, so 2 4 counts. So if I play along with a bit of counting, we're starting with the A chord, and we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be one full progression, and then we start again from A. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, onto the E, and so on and so forth. So really at the end of the progression you're going to hear 4 bars of A, but you definitely want to try and feel it as 2 bars at the end and then 2 bars at the start of the next repeat. Now ultimately you want to get away from counting altogether, and you can definitely use the melody to do that. So obviously I'm going to go into more detail on how to play this little lead part shortly, but in terms of how it helps you navigate the chords, the lead part is giving you the 8th notes. So as you hear in this, that's giving you your 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now at the very start of the song we get 2 bars of the lead part, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and at the start of the next bar you would bring in your first A chord. That would help it sync up, and then you're just following 2 bars on each little shape. The shape of the lead part changes as the chords change, so hopefully you can hear how that all works and syncs up in the track. So you can essentially use that lead part as a metronome to guide you through the track. Now in terms of strumming patterns, I would just stick to the single strums on each chord in the verse. As I say, you're using that lead part to guide you, but you can also use the lyrics as well. It kind of feels like you're strumming a chord in response to each lyric. So once you've started with that initial A chord, you'll get this. Do it all E, everything D, on our own A. So it very much feels like you're strumming a chord just as soon as he finishes singing each line of the verse. In the chorus, however, you're going to want to big it up a bit so it sounds a little bit different to the verse. This is quite good because it means you have to know where the choruses and verses are in the song, so you've got to get a little bit savvy with song structure, which is a good skill as a musician, even though it is just the same chords the whole way through. So if we want to big up the chorus a bit, a good way to do that is to throw in down-strummed 8th notes. So that would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and E and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, D, 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, then end with A, 2 and 3 and 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, start the next one on A as well, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then at the end of the chorus, back to your single strums just on each chord at the start of the next verse, and that'll create that space again, which helps make the sections of the song sound a little bit different. But that is all the chord parts to the song. So if we take a look at the lead part now, it's made up of 3 shapes which correspond with the 3 chords that we've used in the rhythm. It only uses the middle 2 strings, so not too much jumping about or anything like that going on. We're going to start with the A chord shape, well, the lead part that matches the A chord anyway, and it's going to be the first finger on the 7th fret of the D string and the little finger on the 9th fret of the G string, so those 2 notes should sound like this. And you want to keep both fingers pressed down so you can hear both notes ringing out together. Now your instinct might be to use the 3rd finger instead of the little finger, but there is a reason that I've advised using the little finger, and you'll see why that is in a second. Now in terms of the rhythm, we're going to be picking the D string and the G string and just alternating between the 2. Really important that you start on the D string, and as I mentioned previously, these are just 8th notes. So we're going to be going D, G, D, G, D, G, D, G, and in terms of the counting, that is just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just like the chord part, we've got 2 bars on each shape. So the A part of the lead section would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that covers our first chord. Remember, it also plays that in the intro separately, so you've got a 2-bar intro, and then you've got the first 2 bars of the actual repeating section. I'm sure you'll figure out how that works if you try playing along. But then we're moving on to the E chord shape, well, the lead part that corresponds with the E chord. And this is why we're using the little finger on the 9th fret, because we actually need to stretch the first finger out so that it's going to be reaching down to the 6th fret now. And another little tip for this one is to try and get the thumb in the middle of the back of the neck. If I try and show you, my thumb is like right on the stripe in the middle of the back of my fretboard. It's not coming over the top like this, because you tend to find that when the thumb comes over the top, it actually pulls the fingers together into more of a fist shape, and it's really hard to separate them. Like, I really can't get that first finger to reach that 6th fret with the thumb over the top. Whereas if the thumb goes on the back, you can get these massive stretches, and that sort of stuff becomes a lot easier. So try thumb on the back, try little finger on the 9th fret of the G, then first finger hopefully can stretch to the 6th fret of the D. It might take a little bit of getting used to. Not everyone can do this straight away, so don't worry if you can't do it at first. You've just got to kind of build up to it. But this is going to be the shape that fits over the E chord. Rhythmically, it's exactly the same, so alternating between our D and G strings, we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Next, we've got the D chord part, and this is the easiest part of the whole song. All you do is take the first finger off, so we've got the open D string and then the little finger still on the 9th fret of the G string. It makes sense that you'd use the open D string along to a D chord, so pretty easy to remember how that works in the context of the song. Same rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then if you remember the chord progression, we come back to A at the end of the progression, so the first finger just pops back on that 7th fret like it was at the start, and we finish off with our 2 bars of A, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But remember, you've got that same concept as you had in the chords, where we're both starting and ending the progression with an A, so you have to make sure you do your 2 bars at the end, followed by the 2 bars at the start. So it feels like 4 bars in total, but try and get in the habit of feeling it as the end of one progression and the start of another. So if I play the whole thing in full with the counting without running out of breath, it's gonna be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And in terms of the chords, this is the A, this is the E, D with the open D string, and back to A. Then we're starting again from A here, and the progression would continue. When you're practicing this riff, play it nice and slow and try and keep the right hand nice and equal in terms of the timing. What you tend to find sometimes is that students will play through all the A nice and consistent. And then there'll be a big gap while they sort out the first finger moving into the position for the E. But what you want is a nice smooth transition, so slow it down, try and keep the right hand moving, and then try and change the finger without slowing down. So same when you go to the D, try and take that first finger off, and you're synchronizing the left hand movements with the right hand rather than allowing the right hand to wait for the left hand. You want to train the left hand to sync up with the right hand, and then you'll be able to play along with the song in terms of having nice timing as well. Now in terms of the picking, it's super simple. As I've said, it's only the D string and the G string, so you're just focusing on the middle two strings of the guitar. I would definitely use this as an opportunity to get started with alternate picking, and actually in my alternate picking lesson I used this first shape as like a practice exercise to get used to it. So I'd really try and avoid going like down, 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 down all the time. Instead of that, you want to practice either down, up, down, up, down, up, which would be known as inward picking because you're always picking towards the middle of the two strings, or alternatively you could have up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, which would be known as outward picking because you're always picking outwards from the middle of the two strings. So there are your two options in terms of picking. As I say, there's more detail on that one in my alternate picking lesson, so I'll pop a link to that in the cards in the video for you as well. And finally, before we get into the looping stuff, if anyone's interested on how you get the right sort of sound for this song, for the chords I've just got a clean sound with a little bit of reverb on, and then all I did for the lead part over the top was throw on a little bit of distortion just to give it a little bit more grit and help it stick out a little bit more, and a very subtle bit of delay. So not loads and loads of effects, but there's a few little things that you can add in just to help separate those two parts, and especially if you're doing it with a looper, you want to have slightly different sounds on your rhythm and lead loop as well. Maybe also try messing around with different pickup selections also. That obviously doesn't apply if you're using an acoustic guitar. You can totally jam along to this song on acoustic guitar as well, so obviously don't worry about the effects, just try and get all the parts nice and smooth. So now that you know how to play the parts, let's have a chat about how you'd use them with a looper pedal. Now, normally when using a looper pedal, you would generally record the chords first and then put the lead stuff on top. But in this song, I actually think starting with the lead is a good idea because it's so consistent and easy to follow. So if I record the lead part into a looper, you'd have this. Okay, so there's the first part of my loop, which is the A, moving to the E, then we've got the D chord, then the A chord at the end, and I just bring in single strums on each chord. So here we go, we've got the A, then the E, then the D, then back to the A, then we're starting again from A, and it would just continue cycling around like that. So as I say, with that version, you're only doing a single strum, so the main thing you're focusing on is trying to synchronize the chord strum with the movement of the melody. The other approach you could take, which is a little bit more reminiscent of the chorus, is to start with the down-strummed eighth notes in the rhythm. So if I put those into my loop, you'd get this. I'm just going to let those chords cycle round, and then I'm going to start the lead part at the start of the next progression. So there's the D chord. Here we come back round to the A, and we're joining in 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting again, now. So there's a couple of approaches to using a looper in this song. It's one of those occasions where you can start with either the rhythm or the lead and then add the other one to the loop. Just be careful that you don't either extend or skip any of the A chord parts, otherwise it won't all sync up, but your main focus is just making sure that all the loops are the right length and it flows nicely just like it does in the actual song. So I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at this tune. Since I first started teaching, I've always found it to be a popular one among students, and it also serves as a really good beginner-friendly introduction into mixing your lead and rhythm parts together. Now, it's dead easy to play along this one to the song because it's the same progressions the whole way through. I've also shown how you can do it to a looper as well, but even better would be if you have a friend who plays guitar and you can get together and one of you can play the chords, one of you can play the lead part, and then that process of making it work between the two of you is really beneficial. So I'd definitely give that a go if you can. Remember, anything that you're unsure about you can brush up on in previous series of my beginners course. All the lessons are nice and organised on my YouTube channel page. Feel free also to subscribe if you'd like to follow along with the lessons, and I'd really appreciate you giving the video a like if you found it helpful as well. There's going to be more songs like this one coming up, so I'll see you in the next lesson.